Welcome to the Intel Hub News Brief, uncovering the cold hard truth that the corporate media just can't handle. A service of the IntelHub.com. Now, here's Joe Joseph from Freedom Link Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Joe Joseph, and welcome to another edition of the Intel Hub News Brief for June the 5th, 2012. I want to start off this Intel Hub News Brief to talk a little bit about Ron Paul. Now, anybody that followed the Bilderberg conference knows that there was a lot of things said about Ron Paul during the conference. First of all, I think it's an outrage and a travesty that the powers that be think that it would be okay to assassinate a sitting congressman. But of course, you know, they've done it in the past, and they can most certainly do it again. But I'm going to call them out, and I'm going to tell them what the mistake is. And I think they know this, but I'm going to point out the obvious anyway. The obvious is simply this. You kill somebody like Ron Paul, you make Ron Paul a martyr. Not only that, but you piss a hell of a lot of people off. Especially in a manner where you say a Muslim suicide pilot would take him down with a bunch of other undesirables, according to you, or cockroaches. Well, let me tell you this. You cannot kill an idea. You may be able to kill the person, but Ron Paul has already got you dead to rights. Why? Because he's spreading the seeds of liberty, of freedom, of personal responsibility, of morality, something that you guys know nothing about. So it would be in your best interest right now to call it quits before things get really ugly. Now, we know that you can make things ugly on us, and we're prepared for that. We've mentally hardened ourselves for this. And I'm here to tell you right now that you can go ahead and do what you think you have to do, but you're not going to win. You will fail. And I'm going to present evidence tonight to show that. And let's start out with the state of Louisiana. Now, this weekend, Louisiana held its state convention. Now, this is the important convention that decides what delegates go to the Republican National Convention down in Tampa. And PolicyMike.com wrote an article today about the Louisiana State Convention. Specifically, it's titled, Police Swarm Louisiana State Convention, Assault the Chairman, and Arrest Ron Paul Delegates. I'm handicapped. I need a doctor, sir. This is the chairman. The Louisiana State Republican Convention descended into chaos Saturday morning, with several delegates being arrested and the convention chairman being thrown to the ground by police. Sources report that state party officials panicked when it became clear that Ron Paul delegates commanded a decisive majority of the delegates on the floor, at least 111 out of 180, or 62%. The convention began peacefully with a prayer and invocation. Roger Valeri, chairman of the Louisiana Republican Party, then attempted to recognize the former chair of the convention's Rules Committee, who had been ousted from his position last night. When Alex Helwig, the newly elected Rules Committee chair, rose to address the delegation, Mr. Valeri ordered him removed from the floor. And if you go to this article on PolicyMike.com, there's actual footage there of police assaulting and removing Ron Paul supporters. Now, this is the important thing to glean from all of this. This isn't the first state that this has happened in, okay? Ron Paul has gotten a majority of delegates in a lot of these state conventions, and Louisiana is just another one, and the establishment is pulling out all the stops to ensure that Ron Paul isn't able to hijack the convention. Now, the rules, as far as I know, are simply this. The first round at the National Convention, the delegates are bound to vote for who the state voted for in the primary. So the thing is he's got to get through the first round. Once you get through the first round, the gloves are off. Now the delegates aren't bound by any rules or anything. This is how it used to work about 100 years ago. And then all of a sudden we fell into this idea that if you win the primaries, well, you simply you're the guy. Well, that's not the way it works. There's been many presidents that have been selected through history that won on like the 38th ballot. So this is not unheard of, and Ron Paul, this is the delegate strategy that Ron Paul talks about so much. But you see what's going on. You know, Ron Paul people are following the rules and using them to their advantage, and what's happening is The establishment doesn't like this game that's being played against them, their game. And so instead of following their rules that they set, they call in the police, they kick people out, and they do whatever they can to invalidate what's really going on in this country. And the mainstream media does the same thing, which is people are pissed, they see through the left-right paradigm, and they understand what is going on. There's more and more people waking up. That's why Ron Paul people are getting 111 out of 180 votes in Louisiana. Louisiana, the South. I mean, this is unprecedented, folks. 62% in the South. A lot of people in the South look at Ron Paul as a big liberal, as like an ultra-left-winger. So understand that, and this is significant. And so, powers that be, Bilderbergers, NWO, if you're listening to this transmission, you see the writing on the wall. The peasants are getting their pitchforks and their torches. And I got news for you. You may be able to fend off some. You're not going to fend off all. So why don't you go hide in your caves, go to your little underground bases, bury yourself under the ground, and take a hike. But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. 5 TSA workers, this is newspress.com, 5 TSA workers fired, 38 suspended at Southwest Florida International Airport. Why were they suspended, folks? Because 43 frontline screeners refused to do random searches. 43. They refused to do random searches. Now, I am, of course, you know, if you listen to the Freedom Link on the Orion Talk Radio Network, you know that I am a big advocate for anything anti-TSA. Can't stand them. You don't need them. There was nothing wrong with airport security prior to 9/11. And if we just used the same rules that we had before 9/11, no terrorist is going to get by and do anything of any significance. It's just not going to happen. And they certainly aren't going to get through the passenger check-in process. They'll do something else to circumvent the system. But the system itself was fine. The only problem was, if it happened the way they said it happened, which it didn't, and we know that, but if it did, then all that has to be done are the people that didn't follow the rules need to get fired and new people put in their place. But the rules didn't have to change. We didn't need any more legislation. We knew that, and we continue to know that there are crazy people out there that want to do crazy things. And there has to be some level of security. But to the point where your constitutional rights are infringed? No, sir. Your Fourth Amendment right. And the Supreme Court has ruled on this on multiple occasions. Your Fourth Amendment right, your freedom to travel, your right to travel freely. This is a direct violation of that. The same thing with drunk checkpoints. The same thing with ID checks. They have no business stopping you. There's no possible probable cause or reasonable suspicion. You're just driving along. You're just going on a flight. We need to fight this, folks. This is very serious stuff. And we're making progress. I have to tell you, I've never been more encouraged by what I'm seeing. And you have to think that a lot of the conversation at Bilderberg, not only because of what's going on in the world, but because of the awesome turnout to protest Bilderberg. And for the first time, we had so many alternative media personalities converging on one point. Just think about that for a second. I want everybody to think about that. I want you to think about all the networking that was done, all the bonds that were created, the friendships that were made, the alliances that were made. Prior to that, I'm sure there were people that thought, oh, that Alex Jones, he's a shady character, or that Mark Dice, or that Shepard Ambellis. Oh, yeah, COINTELPRO, rumors fly, YouTube videos made, you name it. But then you get to meet him in person, and all of a sudden, that veil comes down. And you see the person, you interface with them, you connect with them, and that human aspect takes over. And you say, look at this, man. We're here, we're fighting, we've got the same enemy. We see the same end game. Why are we infighting? Why are we wasting our energy fighting one another when we need to be fighting these people? They're united against us. Why are we falling for their divide and conquer tactics? Why are we worried about petty things? Who cares that your website is better than me? Who cares that you get more donations than I do? The point is we're all in this fight together. And we need to unite together, regardless of our differences, regardless of your website or how popular you are. There's no time left for infighting. The time is now, and Bilderberg proved it, not only with their language, not only with what they said, but because of the turnout, because of the brotherhood and the bonds that were forged over the weekend. We have more tools in our arsenal now than ever before, and we need to use them. And for everybody else that didn't go to Bilderberg but followed it, spread the word. All it takes is telling somebody about a website, the Intel Hub, InfoWars, FederalJack.com, Orion Talk Radio, Oracle Broadcasting, you name it. Send the word out. But the time is now to step it up, because they're going to step it up. They've got plenty of crises out there right now to take advantage of. And the police state, my friends, you think it's in place now? Just wait. This final story that I want to go over has to do with the police state. And this is by Kurt Nimmo of Infowars.com. And he goes on titling the article, EPA using drones to spy on cattle ranchers in Nebraska and Iowa. The EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, is now using drones. It's freaking unbelievable. It goes on to say Obama's Environmental Protection Agency is using aerial drones to spy on farmers in Nebraska and Iowa. The surveillance came under scrutiny last week when Nebraska's congressional delegation sent a joint letter to EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson. On Friday, EPA officialdom and Region 7 responded to the letter. Quote, courts, including the Supreme Court, have found similar types of flights to be legal. For example, taking aerial photographs of chemical manufacturing facilities. And EPA would use such flights in appropriate instances to protect people and the environment from violations of the Clean Water Act. And that's how the agency responded. Unbelievable. Quote, they're just way on the outer limit of any authority that we've granted, says Mike Jonas, a Republican senator from Nebraska. In fact, the EPA has absolutely zero authority and is an unconstitutional entity of an ever-expanding and rogue federal government. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution does not authorize Congress to legislate in the area of the environment. Under the 10th Amendment, this authority is granted to the states and their legislatures, not the federal government. But this raises a point. So say the federal government tomorrow says, EPA, go away. I don't want to do this. No more. We're going to save some money. States, it's your turn. It's your job. What makes you think the states, in an environmental protection capacity, wouldn't employ the same technology? Think about it. Police use it. They're getting drones. Under the 1033 program, they not only get drones, they get tanks, they get automatic weapons, they get any sort of decommissioned military gear. All they got to do is pay the shipping, and it's theirs. So what makes you think that just because the federal government gets their hand slapped, what makes you think the state would be any different? And this is where you come in, because people, we have to start at the ground level, and that means your municipality first. You have to work where your sphere of influence lies, and that sphere of influence is where we live, where we work, where our kids go to school, our neighborhoods, our cities, our towns. That's where we will be most effective, getting the word out. If that means you make flyers, put them on cars, stupid things like that, telephone poles. It doesn't matter. As long as you get to one person, you've done your job, because that person hopefully turns around and tells another person, and you start the chain reaction. I mean, we are really at critical mass here as far as awakening is concerned. You can just as easily say that it's the other way around, that the powers that be have the upper hand, but they really don't. We do. So folks, understand what's at stake here. Understand that we are winning the fight, but now's the time to really step it up. And to the powers that be, these cockroaches are going to overwhelm you. You haven't even seen an iota of the power the people wield. And you will. You will. There's going to come a point in time where you force the people's hands, and all of a sudden, they're ready to use those pitchforks and those torches. So folks, stay tuned. There'll be a lot more Intel Hub news briefs on the way. And also, tune in to the Freedom Link Radio over on the Orion Talk Radio Network. You can listen to it on the TuneIn app on your iPhone or on your Android. And we're also now on Shoutcast. So check it out. That's OrionTalkRadio.com. Freedom Link Radio airs Tuesday and Thursday from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern